Hey everyone, how you all doing? Welcome back to my channel, and today we are talking about all of my favorite books from 2021. So I would be lying if I said that this list was not incredibly difficult to come up with. I had a few that I knew had to be on the list, you know, like the staples from the year that I just couldn't stop talking about or couldn't stop thinking about, and then I just had trouble filling up the rest of the spots, and I'm still not feeling like 100% confident in this list, and I have quite a few honorable mentions to go through because I just am very undecisive apparently. So I have 10 main favorites to talk about, and then, like I said, some honorable mentions. I'm not going to be giving descriptions of the books in this video because I just really want to focus and highlight the things that I love about the books without wasting time on what they're about. So I will be making sure to link all the Goodreads pages down below for you guys so you can see what all of these are about if you do so desire, but I'm mainly just going to be focusing on why I love all of these books. So let's just get started. So I have 3 honorable mentions to go through it today really quickly. The first one is Actor Age Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. This one I feel like would have made my favorites list if I had read it a bit later on in the year, but because I read this so early on in the year, I don't even remember when I read it. Whenever it came out is when I read it. I am just struggling to remember how much I loved this book or like all the specific reasons why I loved it. I even like looked back at like my review for it in my reading journal, and I don't know, like looking at all these tabs that are in there, like this book should be on the favorites list, but because I read it so long ago, I just can't in good faith put it on the list. You know what I mean? Like, this is what I mean when I said I had a really hard time compiling this list, because when I think about it, this should be on the list because I did really love it, but I just for some reason can't put it on the list. But I really did love this book. It's the 3rd book in the Brown Sister trilogy, and it was really good. It should be on the list, but alas, it is an honorable mention. The next one is one that should also be officially on the list, but it is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. Again, super tabbed up. I did a reading vlog that features this book, but again, I don't know, I feel like I've read so many romance books this year, and this one was really good, really great. I really loved it. I just rewatched the vlog that I did for it so I could like refresh my memory, and I did love it. But I think because I didn't love it as much as her first book, Beach Read, which was on my favorites for 2020, I feel like I just can't put this one on the list. I don't know, but I did really love this one. It was an A+ solid romance book. And then the next one is a bit of a different story, and it is If This Gets Out by Sophie Gonzalez and Cale Dietrich. This book is one that I just read in December. It was actually my last read of the year, and I really enjoyed it, and for some reason I just don't feel like it belongs on the favorites list, even though I love it. I have literally nothing but amazing things to say about it. I just for some reason don't have that like gut feeling that it's a favorite book of like the year, but for some reason I just didn't feel right putting it on the list, but I also didn't feel right not talking about it at all. So here we are. It's an honorable mention. I really did love this book though. It's a new release of December, and I highly recommend that you guys all check it out. It's about a boy band. It's absolutely amazing. It's just for some reason gut feeling doesn't belong on the list. I don't know how to explain it. Okay, so now let's get into the actual top 10 books of the year for me. So the first book is Kate in Waiting by Becky Albertalli. This book I actually read twice this year. I read it physically when it came out. I did a whole reading vlog for it that I will link for you guys, and then I listened to the audiobook I think in November or December. I don't know, this book to me was so much fun. It deals with high school theater. It deals a lot with like crushing on people and like what it feels like to have a lot of crushes, a lot of unrequited crushes. I feel like Becky Albertalli writes unrequited love really well. She obviously has a whole book called The Upside of Unrequited, but this book in particular, I just completely fell in love with this cast of characters, with our main character Kate and her best friend Anderson. The love interests in this book were super charming and really fun to read about, and I was really rooting for all of the relationships in this book and just found myself just completely falling head over heels in love with them. I was super invested in the story and how it was going to all play out. You guys can, like I said, watch the reading vlog. I think the vlog is literally titled just like chaotic fangirling for 20 minutes because I was just chaotic fangirling the entire time. Like, Becky Albertalli just writes really amazing YA contemporaries in my opinion, just nails them on the head every single time. She just knows exactly what it feels like to be a teenager and to go through all of these like complicated feelings, and then with the addition of theater in this book, it just brought it to this whole extra fun level with all of those dynamics intertwined. And since this was Becky Albertalli's first solo book since like 2018, I think, I was really anticipating it it and really wanting it to be this like amazing story, and I was not disappointed in the slightest. Like, this book met all of my expectations and exceeded them, and I'm really happy that I loved it as much as I did. It was just absolutely fantastic. The next book is actually one of the last ones that I added onto this list when I was curating it, and I wasn't sure if it belonged on this list or something else should go in its place, but at the end of the day I feel like it just had to be on this list, and I don't even know why. Like I said, this list was really hard to make and there's honestly no logic to it. But the next book is Makeup Breakup by Lily Menon. This book could potentially just be on the list because I read it recently, like I read it in December I think, so it could just be that it's fresh on my mind. But I did really love this one. Lily Menon is also Sandia Menon. This is her adult romance pen name, and I love Sandia Menon. I've loved all of her previous books, and so I was really excited for her to do an adult romance novel, and let me tell you, she did such a good job. This deals with like a workplace office romance, which I've discovered over the past like 2 years that it's one of my favorite tropes. Like, there are so many romance books and like romance movies that deal with this kind of trope, and I eat it up every single time, and this one was no exception. It was so wonderful. I loved the main characters. I loved their dynamic with each other and the tension that was between them this entire book, and it's just, I don't know, it was amazing. And it also kind of deals with another trope where like the guy falls first, or like you can clearly tell that the guy is just absolutely smitten and in love with our main character, but like the main character hasn't quite gotten there yet or hasn't quite let herself realize that she loves him yet. And it was just it was so good. I read this really quickly. I think I read it in almost one sitting because I just couldn't put it down. Like, realistically, I knew that I had to like go to bed and I had to like stop reading, and then I couldn't. Like, I literally could not tear myself away from this book because I just wanted to know how it ended. It was a super compelling and fun story, and like I said, deals with tropes that I love. I loved the characters. I loved the whole plot dealing with them having competing apps, and it was a really entertaining read, and I'm really happy that I read it, and I can see myself rereading it many times in the future. I feel like this would also make a really cute like Netflix movie. So Netflix, pick up this book. So the next book is actually a full series because I couldn't quite figure out which book was my favorite out of the 4. So I'm just going to talk about the entire series, but I'm only going to hold up the first book because I'm not about to hold up 4 books. So I'm talking about Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco. I listened to this entire series this year on audiobook and just completely fell head over heels in love, mainly with the characters. Like, I feel like if I did not love the characters as much as I do, I probably wouldn't have loved this series as much. The plot was fun, the mysteries were fun, but I feel like if the characters were anything less than they are, it just wouldn't have compelled me as much. But I am a character-driven reader, so because I do love these characters so much, I can't stop thinking about this series. Like I said, I listened to them on audiobook. I read the first 2 back to back because they just happened to both be available. I think I was like halfway through this one or something, and then I was like, oh my god, like I need to get the second one, and it just happened to be available, so I downloaded it and then I listened to it right away. I was doing like bullet journal spreads while I was reading them, so they went by really quickly. I listened to them in like a sitting each, and it was just so addicting. But then the next 2 audiobooks weren't available yet, so I had to wait a few weeks before I could continue, and it was torture. Like, my friend Alyssa will vouch for this. I was texting her nonstop being like, oh my god, I miss these characters. I need to continue reading this series. I don't know, like, there was just something about Audrey Rose and Thomas Cresswell that just completely captivated me. Like, they were such beautiful characters. Their romance with each other was literally amazing. Like, I need a Thomas Cresswell, please and thank you. I feel like I have nothing but nice things to say about this series, and it's just one of those things where I just can't stop thinking about it. Like, I read these months ago and I just can't stop thinking about them. Like, these characters have just completely taken root in my heart, and I love them to pieces. Like, I am so excited to reread this series one day and to just like fully immerse myself in this world and in these characters again. I was completely hooked the entire time. This was honestly one of the biggest surprises of the year because I had never really planned on reading this series. I had seen it talked about on booktube for years and just for some reason was like, I'm not that interested. And I don't know why, because this series has so many things that I love. It has a really adorable, like, snarky, fun love interest, a really great romance. It also deals with like morticians. Are they morticians? I always forget what the word is, but like they basically do like autopsies. So there's like a lot of talk of like dead bodies and like doing things like that. And for some reason I'm really interested in that. Like, I found myself watching a lot of videos about like morticians and autopsies, and I don't know what that says about me, but I really enjoyed it. So I don't know why I thought I wouldn't like this series. Maybe I just didn't pay enough attention to it to realize all the things that I would love about it. But I only picked it up because the audiobook was available. I needed something to listen to, and I was like, hey, this seems kind of fun. So I listened to it just like on a whim, and I'm really glad that I did, because it has become my like new obsession. Like, I'm constantly thinking about this series. The next book is Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas. This one is a prequel to The Hate You Give, and I was really looking forward to this book. It was on my most anticipated books of the year list, and I was really looking forward to it. It came out in January of 2021, and I just never picked it up. I don't know what it is about me with Angie Thomas. I always really anticipate her books, and then they come out and then I just don't touch them. Like, I think it took me a year, like a full year, before I read On the Come Up after it came out. So I don't know what I was waiting for. I think it's because I'm scared that they're going to be really sad and they're going to hurt me, and sometimes I'm just not in the mental space to do that. But I decided to listen to this one on audiobook because I listened to like a sample of it, I think, and it just sounded like it was going to be really good on audio. So I went that route, and I was doing a lot of things while I was listening to it. I think I was doing bullet journal stuff again, and I think I was doing a lot of chores while I listened to it, and it just like completely captivated me. This book is all about Star's dad from The Hate You Give, and I really loved seeing him as a teenager, and this whole book is about him becoming a dad for the first time. So we follow him finding out that he's the dad of Seven, who is Star's older brother, and we get to see his whole journey with trying to navigate being a teenage dad and trying to support and take care of this baby. And then we also get to see him with his girlfriend, who ends up being Star's mom, and like them finding out that she's pregnant with Star, and it's just like an amazing story, and I love the way it was told. I love being in Maverick's head and kind of seeing all of his like thought processes and like seeing everything that he was going through, and I don't know, like it just made me have like a whole new appreciation for Maverick. Even though like I loved him to begin with, this book, I don't know, it just like opened things up for me and it completely captivated me. This book was just, oh, it was so good. I think it's one of her best books. I mean, she only has 3, but I really desperately loved this book. It just like, I don't know, like I knew I was gonna love it, but I didn't think I was gonna love it to this capacity. I don't know, I just loved getting backstory on Maverick, and there are things in this book that are referenced in The Hate You Give. We got to see firsthand how Seven and Star got their names and the importance of their names, which is something that is mentioned many times in The Hate You Give. And it was just such a pleasure to read about Maverick as a young adult, because we know where he ends up and we know how his life has turned out, and so it was really satisfying almost to like see him go through this like transformation and this journey and see him struggle, and knowing that everything ends up okay and that he ends up being this like really amazing father. I don't know, I just really enjoyed it. I could talk about this book for a long time. I'm in love with this book. I highly recommend that you read it. I really recommend that you read it if you loved The Hate You Give, but I think it could work on its own as well. It is just such a good book, and I think Angie Thomas did such an amazing job with it. The next book is The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. This is like a fantasy romance book. Like, it's a romance book but with magic, which I think is really fun, because the only books I've ever read are either specifically romance or they're fantasy with like a romantic subplot, but this was more like romance with like a fantasy magical subplot, which I really enjoyed, since I'm not like the biggest fantasy reader these days. So reading a book that has magic in it but it's not like in your face or it's not like really complicated or anything, I really enjoyed it, and I want to read a million more books that are like this. So if you have any like recommendations that are in the vein of this book, I'd really love to have them. There are a couple that I have my eye on, but they're like also Halloween-y reads, so I'm gonna wait to read them till October. But I really enjoyed this book, and I think I read it at the perfect time because I read it on Halloween. This book takes place, I believe, around Halloween time, if I remember correctly. If not on Halloween, I don't remember. So I read it on Halloween. I read it in a sitting. Like, I just sat my butt down and I just powered through the entire thing. But this book was just so compelling. I really loved the setting of the book. It's like a small town, kind of gave me like Gilmore Girls vibes, and then the whole tone of the book reminded me of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, like the 90s version of it, which is one of my favorite shows. So I don't know, it was just like a perfect recipe for a book that I was gonna adore, and I did adore it. The romance was so cute. It's like a second chance romance. It was so much fun. The tension between them was great. The dynamic was great. I think that they had really great chemistry, and I don't know, I really liked the writing of it as well. Everything about this book was just super fun, and I can definitely see myself rereading it every single October, because it's just one of those books, you know. It was super fun, super easy, super quick, and I don't know, I really connected to it. I think I loved it even more than I was expecting to. It was just a really fun book. I'm going to talk about the next 2 books together because they're by the same authors. I was going to put one of them in the honorary mentions, and then I watched a reading vlog that I did for one of them, and then I just didn't feel right putting it as an honorary mention time, but I typically have a rule where I only mention one book per author in these kinds of videos, but you know what, I already included a whole entire series, so we're just gonna say screw it. So the next two books are The Unhoneymooners and Love in Other Words, both by Christina Lauren. So originally Love in Other Words was on the list and The Unhoneymooners was an honorary mention, but the more that I thought about it, like I said, it just didn't feel right. So this one was originally on the list, has tons of tabs in it, and I just really loved and connected to this book. It deals with a dual timeline and it deals with like a lost love. Like these people had like a relationship and then they had a falling out and they come back together like years later, and it's kind of like a second chance for them. And I really adored seeing their relationship prior when they were younger, and then seeing them in the present and seeing how they're trying to like reconcile and learning how things happen, learning how they grew apart. It was just so good, and I don't know, I connected to a lot of things about it. I love Christina Lauren's writing style. Everything about this book just really worked for me. But then there's The Unhoneymooners, and this book has my favorite trope, fake dating, except elevated because it's actually a fake marriage. And it was just, the tension was so good, the dynamics were so good, the chemistry was really great. It was a bit cheesy at times, but like I live for some cheese, so it was just really good. So I couldn't pick between them, even though I did originally pick this one, but then I couldn't stand by that decision. So they both had to be on this list. I absolutely adore both of these books. They're both heavily tabbed. I mean, Christina Lauren has yet to disappoint me. It's only right that these are both on the list. The next book is Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare. I finally read the first two books in the series this year, and I'm so happy about it. I really loved this book. This series I completely fell head over heels in love with. I love this cast of characters, even though it did take me a while to remember who was who because there are just so many characters in this world now. It's so hard to keep them straight. But I really enjoyed this world and the characters, and this one in particular just had me like so invested. I have a whole reading vlog where I read these books that I'll like link for you somewhere. I just absolutely fell in love with them. The characters and their dynamics. I really love this cast of characters. Like I don't even know how to tell you the romances I'm so invested in. This book ended on such a cliffhanger that has me dying for the next book, and I'm so mad I have to wait like basically a year for it. I am so mad, but this book just, I don't know, I knew I was gonna love it, but it just, oh, it exceeded everything. I am obsessed with this book. So my next favorite is What I Like About You by Marissa Cantor. This one I read quite early on in the year, but it has really stuck with me. It was just such a cute and adorable YA contemporary book. I really enjoyed Marissa Cantor's writing style. It was really simple and easy to read through. I literally read this book in a sitting when I didn't even mean to. Like I kind of just sat down and then didn't get back up again. This book also deals with a lot of my favorite things. It deals with book lover characters. Our main character has like a book blog, which is really cute. They go to BookCon. It also deals with the kind of trope where the characters know each other online but don't necessarily know each other in real life, or one person doesn't know who the other person is. And I really love tropes like that. A lot of my favorite books have that trope, and I just think that was really well done in this book. It was a lot of fun, and just overall I thought it was a really cute, fun contemporary. It just hit all of the sweet spots for me, and I just had a good time reading it. Okay, so we are down to the last two favorite books of the year. So the next one is 10 Rules for Faking It by Sophie Sullivan. This is an adult romance novel that I read a couple of months ago, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. Again, I read this book in a single sitting. I also didn't really mean to. It just kind of flew by so quickly, and I did not want to stop reading. And it was just one of those reads where I just became completely like sucked into the story and the world and these characters, and by the time that I was done, like I didn't know what to do with myself. Like I think I literally just sat there and like had the book like clutched against my chest, and I was like, well, okay, what do I do now? Like, how am I supposed to move on after reading this book? All of those feelings were there when I read this. My favorite thing about this book is the anxiety representation. I have social anxiety, so anytime I find a book that has that representation in it, I instantly gravitate towards it. And this book, oh my goodness, this book has the best anxiety representation I have ever read about. Like, I always say that every single book I read that has anxiety rep in it has like a piece of me in it, just like a small piece, and they all kind of come together to build this like anxiety puzzle. That was a weird like metaphor. And no book has ever fully captured my anxiety and what it feels to have this all-consuming thing going on in your brain that you can't control and that you don't necessarily understand, and like all of these things. I have never read a book before that completely captures that feeling and how suffocating anxiety can feel, and this book has that. This book literally has my anxiety down to a T. I deeply connected to so many things and so many lines, and I would have tapped this book like crazy, but I just didn't have them on me. And by the time that I started reading and started feeling all these strong emotions towards it, I could not bring myself to get up off the couch to come in here and grab my tabs. I just couldn't do it. I do plan on rereading this book this month, and I will be tabbing it because I want to see all of those like lines tabbed up. But this anxiety rep, I cannot sing its praises enough. I know that the author has anxiety as well, and so you know that it's like authentic and coming from a real place, and it just, I can't even describe how much it means to me to read about anxiety that matches my own, to make me feel like I'm not crazy and make me feel like I'm not alone. And you know, I think that anxiety can be such an isolating thing, and it feels like you're the only person feeling this way, and that you think that you're broken and like all of these things. And this book made me feel less alone and made me feel like I'm not the only person dealing with this. I am not isolated in this feeling. And yeah, like I cannot say enough nice things about this book and about the anxiety rep in particular. It just literally like hit me right in the heart, hit right in the soul, right in the gut. Like it like, ugh. Like this anxiety rep just, I don't know, it's my favorite that I've ever read, and it just means so much to me. And there were so many lines that I just deeply connected to and was like, holy shit, that's me. Yeah, I could talk about the anxiety rep in this book for hours. But other things that I loved about this book, because there were so many things to love about this book, I adored the romance, like full-heartedly loved the romance. I believed in the chemistry so much. This is another workplace office romance. Like I said, it has become a new favorite trope of mine, but like the chemistry between these two characters was off the charts, and we get the point of view of both of the characters. We get to see both sides of it, which I really enjoyed, and seeing the pining coming from the love interest, and it was just, oh my god, it was so good. And like this kiss scene in this book is one of my absolute favorite kiss scenes I have ever read. I don't know what it was about it, but it was so satisfying, and I was swooning. Like my heart was pounding, I'm pretty sure I was blushing, like I was hyperventilating. It was so cute, and I can't wait to re-experience it when I reread this book. But oh my god, that kiss scene was everything. But yeah, this romance was just to die for. I mean, it's a romance book, so like you want the romance to be good, and this romance was definitely like top tier. Like it was so believable and so much fun, and like just such a pleasure to read about, and these characters themselves absolutely like stole my heart. Like, oh my god, like I said, I could talk about this book for hours. It is just it was such a delight and pleasure to read, and I highly recommend that everybody read it. It was just one of the best romance books I've ever read, and I'm so, like I said, grateful for the anxiety representation in this book, because it just means the absolute world to me. So this one just 100% had to be on the list. I knew as I was reading it was going to be a favorite. I knew when I finished it that it was going to be a favorite, and there was no way that I wasn't going to make this list. I'm in love with this book. And finally, my favorite book of the year. None of these books, by the way, were like in order of favorite, but this one is my favorite book of the year. And I feel like if you've been watching my channel at all this year, then this will come as literally no surprise to anybody. I'm sure you could all guess what book this is. Counting Down With You by Tasha Bouillon. I'd be shocked if any of you are surprised by this. So, Counting Down With You. I have two copies here because I received an ARC from the publisher, and this is the copy that I originally read, so I wanted to show it with all my tabs in it, and then this is the hardcover. So I think for the purpose of this video, I'm going to hold up the ARC mainly. I was really excited about this one when I saw it on Twitter. I saw people tweeting about it, I saw the author. I'm not sure exactly how I stumbled upon it, but I saw it and knew that I wanted to read it because it has fake dating, which is like my absolute favorite trope. Like I think right now, if I were to like rank my favorite tropes, it would be fake dating and then like office workplace romances. They're so good every single time. So I just knew that I was gonna love this book. I wanted this book, and I could not wait to read it. So I requested an ARC, I got the ARC, I did a whole reading vlog on this book, and it just, I don't know, like I've read this book twice this year, and I'm just, it is so good. Like I don't think I've ever tabbed a book as much as I've tabbed this one. Like there are hundreds of tabs in here. I don't want to know how many tabs are actually in here, but it's definitely hundreds. Like there are some pages that have 4 or 5 tabs on it because there were just so many moments that I couldn't not note down. So first of all, this is one of my new favorite YA contemporaries of all time, not just of this year. This romance was literally so pure and so cute, and Ace was perfection. Tasha Bouillon did write Ace on purpose to be this like perfect, like idealized boyfriend, like someone who just did everything right, because Karina had so much other stuff going on that she just wanted her to have like this one good thing, this one good person in her life. And that might not be everybody's cup of tea, but it is definitely my cup of tea, and I really want like an age appropriate Ace Clyde for myself, please and thank you. Like there were moments where like he did mess up, or he didn't understand something, or he crossed a boundary or a line, and Karina would talk to him about it, and then he wouldn't cross that line again, and he learned from it. And that is just, I love him so much. Like he is the perfect boy, and this relationship was just so cute. Fake dating is my favorite trope, and so I really enjoy when it's done at least slightly differently than it usually is. And this one, it was done in a way that I hadn't quite seen before, and it had a sense of urgency to it. Like it had an actual like expiry date on it for when it needed to be over, so it like added all this extra like tension. And oh my god, like I have no words. Like I'm trying to sit here and like think about how to properly like describe how I feel about this book, and I'm coming up short, because it's just everything about it works so perfectly together to make such an amazing book. But the romance was really good. The fake dating was done super well, and one of my favorites that I've ever read from. And then this book also has anxiety reps, so there's that as well. This is one of those books that has like a piece of my anxiety in it, and I just really loved the way that it was handled and the way that Ace handled it. I personally, with my anxiety, often feel that I am going to be too much for somebody while also not being enough for somebody, and feeling like my anxiety is an inconvenience on everybody in my life. And the way that Ace handled her anxiety and went about it was just so beautiful and ideal. He was so understanding of it and just like was supportive, and that is everything that I could ever want. But anyway, anxiety in this book was beautiful. I really enjoyed reading from it. Like a few pages in, like there was one line and I was like, oh, like this book is gonna mean a lot to me. And it does. This book is just constantly on my mind, always thinking about it. Like I read this book literally in February, and it is still stuck with me. I don't know, I feel like again I could sit here and ramble at you for hours on how much I love this book. It is just the cutest, most pure contemporary novel that also has harder hitting topics in it and deals a lot with family and culture and all of those things, and it's just such a good book. So again, I highly recommend this book. I have screamed about it enough this year that if you have not yet picked it up, I don't know how else to convince you. It is just my baby. I love this book so much, and it's absolutely 100% without a doubt my favorite book of the year. So those were all of my favorite books of the year. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I've had a really great reading year. I meant to say this at the beginning of the video, but this year I read 109 books, which is 10 books less than 2020. But considering the year that I've had a really hard, difficult, challenging year, and I've also had a busy year, and I found it very hard to make time for reading, and I've had like a couple of reading slumps throughout the year. So the fact that I've read 109 books and have all of these favorites is like A+, makes me really happy. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that you will consider picking up some of these books if you have not yet already, because I love them so much. But if you did enjoy this video, give it a huge thumbs up. Comment down below and tell me what your favorite book of the year was, because I'd really love to know. Subscribe if you have not yet already, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.